MBA applications are on the rise and top companies all over the world are always looking for MBAs. What exactly is an MBA? Is it even worth it? In this video, I will try to answer all these questions and many more. I will leave chapters in the bottom so you can skip to the parts that you're interested in. Just so you know, I am currently doing an MBA in Booth, so I will base most of my answers from my experience here so far. Let's get it. What exactly is an MBA? MBA obviously stands for Master of Business Administration. It's probably the most well-known and respected degree in business and is offered by universities all over the world. There are different types of MBAs. There's a full-time MBA, which is usually 2 years, which is great for students that just want to immerse in the experience and take full advantage of the program. Then you also have part-time MBAs, which are basically people that are working full-time and just doing the classes in the afternoon. There's the Executive MBA, which is for people with more than 10 years of experience that don't want to necessarily do the full MBA, want to focus on more executive training. And there's also online MBAs, which offer flexibility. You can obviously do them from home, but a lot of the top MBAs do not offer this. When people mention the MBA, they're probably talking about the full-time 2-year program, which is the first one I mentioned. So we're going to be focusing on that one for this video. In this program, you basically take 2 years of work and take business classes. You take these classes from around August to May and then have one summer internship over the summer in whatever industry you want, and ideally you get a return offer for after graduation. Most of the people that do an MBA end up working in these industries, and a lot of the top business leaders all around the world that you've probably heard about have MBAs. But lately there's been some debate over whether it is still worth it or not. So let's go over the reasons why people generally decide to do an MBA. I would say there are 4 main reasons why people do an MBA. And the first one is the most important one, which is to switch careers. It is literally a cheat code because no matter what you did before your MBA, you could basically handpick your next career. There are no expectations to have previous work experience in your new industry. For example, you could go from being a teacher to working at an investment bank, from being a scientist to a consultant, or from being a veteran to a PM role in a tech company. You can literally pivot to anything you want. And the best thing is that you would go in at a more senior position than you would after undergrad. For example, for investment banking, you would go in as an associate rather than as an analyst, even though you have 0 finance experience. Secondly, I'd say just career advancement. This one is more common in consulting firms, and they would normally sponsor you, meaning that they pay for the entire cost of tuition and in exchange promise to give you a promotion once you come back from the MBA. Then something everyone mentions, and that's networking. It is a big part of the MBA. It's cool because you surround yourself with high achieving people and everything is a new experience, so you get to grow a lot personally and professionally. Lastly, I kind of mentioned it before, but it's the MBA stamp. Having an MBA from a top school will get you in the door. If you're trying to raise money, if you're trying to sell something, if you're trying to get an interview, it's gonna give you some credibility and allow you to get there. Obviously, these are all good things. However, there's one thing that we haven't mentioned, which is probably the biggest negative of doing an MBA, and that's the cost of an MBA. Booth actually has a pretty good breakout on their website of all the costs involved, but I will adjust it a little for the living expenses I have experienced so far. These expenses will just cover 9 months because I am assuming that over the summer you have an internship that will allow you to cover your expenses and even save some money. First, you have your tuition, which is $84,198. It is for Booth, but most top programs are around this range. Obviously, this is the big ticket in this calculation, but a lot of schools offer scholarships to offset some of this cost. So keep in mind this number might not be the full $80,000. Then you have random fees that they outline and your insurance, which is around $4,500 for the 9 months that you're enrolled. Then for rent, I personally pay $2,500 per month. This obviously depends where you're doing your MBA. And lastly, for personal expenses, it also depends on the person, but I'm just gonna put in $2,500 per month, which ends up being $22,500. There's a lot of trips and activities, so there's definitely some budgeting involved, but again, this is just a good approximation. So this gives you a total of $138,000 for the first year and around $275,000 for both years. Here you can see that the costs do add up, but again, keep in mind that there's a chance that the tuition will be somewhat subsidized by a scholarship from whatever school you apply to. Another thing to consider is the opportunity cost of foregoing your salary for 2 years, which is definitely large as well. The financial costs are pretty significant, so let's see what salary you would make out of the MBA to see what funds you would have to pay off a potential loan. Obviously, the salary you make depends on the industry you work at post-graduation. Here is a Booth report for last year, and I have highlighted the salaries for the top 3 functions. So, for example, for investment banking, the median is $175,000 with a $50,000 signing bonus. You also make a bonus at the end of the year that should be in the 6 digits that is not here in this report. Consulting also has a strong end of the year bonus, not in this report. So, in total, you could end up making around $250,000 to $300,000 your first year out of the MBA, which is pretty insane. Just to visualize, I asked my friend ChatGPT what $175,000 salary would be in New York City post taxes, and it came out to a little under $10,000 a month. Keep in mind that this is without the signing bonus and the end of the year bonus. So knowing this, is it worth it? So I'm gonna cop out here and say it depends. First, it depends on your personal situation, how much salary you're making at the time, whether you're thinking of getting married soon. You also have to really think about your goals post-MBA. Because if you're already in consulting and you just wanna do it and work for a better consulting firm, you can probably do that without an MBA. You have to really think if doing an MBA is the only way that you can achieve your future goals. And lastly, when it comes to the money, if you wanna absolutely maximize every dollar that you make, it might not really be worth it in the short term because you are giving up 2 years of salary and it is very expensive. However, if you don't really care about maximizing your dollars in the short term, you have to also think about the fact that it might open a lot of doors for you in the future. And at the end of the day, you never know what might happen. Maybe you meet a potential co-founder, you create a business that you wouldn't have founded, and you end up being a billionaire. Of course, it's a long shot, but you really never know. So is it worth it? That's for you to decide. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them in the comments. We do have other MBA videos that you can go to where I talk about my personal experience. We post videos every Wednesday, so make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Peace.